Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive puzzle that literally dictates how our entire world operates. Okay, I want you to picture this. You're standing right in the middle of a colossal globe-spanning factory. Right in front of you is this massive master control panel, just covered in sliding levers, buttons, and dials. This giant control room? That's our global economy. Every single day, unseen managers are shifting these levers, deciding exactly how to use the planet's very limited materials. You pull a lever one way, boom, you get food on the table. You push it the other way, you're building towering skyscrapers. But here's the catch. You can't push all the levers to the max at the same time. There just isn't enough juice. So let's look at exactly why that is.
Here's how we're going to break it all down today. We'll start with the root of scarcity, step into the economy's control room, tackle the big question of what to produce, look at the great trade-off, see how different systems actually decide, and finally, look at the future we choose. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The root of scarcity. To really understand this giant control panel, we first have to understand the fundamental paradox of human existence that built it.
So, here is the million-dollar question. How do we satisfy unlimited wants with limited resources? This actually isn't a new thought. Way back in 1932, Professor Lionel Robbins, over at the London School of Economics, wrote a whole book on this, where he formally defined this exact dilemma as the root of literally all economic problems. It's the absolute core issue we face, right? Human desire just outpaces the physical reality of our planet. Let's be honest, if we could, most of us would totally want an infinite supply of new shoes, endless streaming content, maybe even a private jet, but the planet only has so much stuff to go around.
The source material breaks this economic problem down into a pretty logical chain reaction. It starts with this never-ending loop. Our wants are unlimited and recurring. You satisfy one want, and bam, another one instantly pops up. And some, like hunger, just keep coming back day after day. But the raw materials to satisfy them, the land, the labor, the capital, they are strictly limited. And here is the real kicker, those scarce resources, they have alternative uses. Think about it. If you have a highly fertile piece of land, you have to choose. Do you use it to grow wheat, or do you use it to grow cotton? You absolutely cannot do both simultaneously with that exact same patch of dirt. You are forced to make a choice.
Moving on to Section 2. The economy's control room. So how does society actually manage this constant need to choose? Let's step right up to that central command center.
Because our means are so limited and our wants are practically infinite, society's forced into what we call the problem of choice. Basically, this means we have to economize our resources. We have to be smart about it. This massive dilemma branches out into three unavoidable central questions that every single society on Earth has to answer. What to produce, how to produce, and for whom are we producing? That brings us to Section 3, what to produce. Let's zoom in on that first monumental question. Imagine that factory floor manager sweating in front of a giant, heavy sliding lever, agonizing over where to lock it in.
This right here is one of the most critical levers on the entire board. Pull it one way, and you start churning out consumer goods. The things we use every single day. Wheat, cloth, shoes, sugar. But push it the other way, and you forge capital goods. We're talking heavy industrial machines and the tools we need to make other things. When our manager pulls the lever toward consumer goods, great, we get our daily necessities. But, and this is a huge but, because resources are totally finite, shifting that lever mathematically means we are pulling resources away from producing capital goods. You can't just magically max out the shoe supply and max out industrial machinery. You literally have to slide the scale.
And hey, it's not just physical items either. This applies to services too. Picture another sliding lever right next to the first one. This one balances civil goods against war goods. If we allocate our limited human and physical resources to build, say, more schools and hospitals, it inherently means we have fewer resources left over for military tanks and defenses. The materials and the labor have to come from somewhere, right? Every single decision to produce more of one thing is, by definition, a decision to produce less of another.
Section 4. The Great Trade-off. And this brings us to a rather sobering reality. Setting these control levers isn't just about what we want today.
The harsh reality is that yanking that lever all the way over to consumer goods, well, it gives the present generation a fantastic time. We get a great quality of life right now, plenty of clothes, plenty of food, sugar, you name it. But doing this massively reduces the production of capital goods, like tools and machinery, and over time, that shrinks the overall productive capacity of the entire economy. We are essentially boosting our living standards today by robbing future generations of the tools they're going to need to build their world. It is one heck of a balancing act. So the crucial takeaway here is captured perfectly in this concept straight from our source text. Making best use of the available scarce resources is known as the problem of economizing of resources. And look, this isn't just some theoretical puzzle for academics sitting in a classroom. It is the ultimate, incredibly high-stakes challenge for any society that's trying to survive and thrive without leaving the cupboard totally bare for tomorrow.
Section 5. How systems decide. We know that choices are tough, and those levers are incredibly heavy. So how do different societies actually go about programming their control panels? Well, once we actually decide what to produce, we instantly slam into the next questions. How and for whom? Should we use labor-intensive methods, like imagine a vast room of hundreds of people weaving on hand looms? Or do we go capital-intensive, using modern robotic arms that require way less human labor? And then, who gets the output? Are we producing luxury sports cars for the rich or affordable public transit for the working class? Every single system answers these questions completely differently.
Think of different economic systems as different operating software for our master control panel. In a capitalist system, the levers are essentially automated by the market. They're driven entirely by what earns a profit, whatever minimizes costs, and customer purchasing power. On the flip side, a socialist system operates in a sort of manual override. It sets the levers based on what society needs, regardless of profit. Labor might intentionally be used more if there's high unemployment, and distribution is based purely on the needs of the people. And then we have a mixed economy, which kind of blends both. The private market produces profitable goods based on purchasing power, while the government steps in to produce essential public goods and ensure everyone's baseline needs are met. Basically, 3 completely different ways to run the exact same master control room.
Section 6. The future we choose. Because no matter which system a society actually uses, the ultimate overarching goal is always efficiency. An economy absolutely cannot afford to just let resources sit idle. Efficient utilization is quite literally our best defense against scarcity. By minimizing waste, we preserve materials for sustainable development, and we prevent devastating environmental impacts like habitat destruction and pollution. Plus, it naturally drives down production costs, which can really help promote social equity by reducing wealth disparities. And honestly, when resources are painfully tight, it forces us into brilliant innovations. We start figuring out resource recovery and advanced recycling. True efficiency means you literally cannot squeeze out another drop of one good without sacrificing another. I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought from the source material. It points out that economic growth is actually just a narrow concept, maybe just producing more goods, while economic development is a much broader, far more meaningful concept. So when you look at the master control panel of your own society, I want you to ask yourself, are we just mindlessly yanking levers to get bigger numbers today? Or are we carefully calibrating them to ensure true, sustainable economic development for the generations that are going to inherit this control room after us? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this changes how you view the world around you.